My name is Nick, and I'm 37 years old. My drug of choice was more, but if I had to pin it down to one drug, it would have been what destroyed my life was Oxycontin, more than anything else. Okay, so to start off with was probably just an incident that I had with smoking marijuana, and some friends had introduced me to the fact that, you know, everybody was doing it, so it was a cool thing to do. So I started with that, but not long after that was cocaine and Oxycontin. That was introduced through a friend of mine's father, who let me know that it was a prescription. Oxycontin, I'm saying, was a prescription drug, and it was for people who had pain, but it was basically for anything. You know, I wasn't aware that what it was and what it entailed as far as cancer patients and things like that. So being not wise on that, I started using that recreationally, which led to that addiction. What didn't I hate about Oxycontin once it got a hold of me? I don't know. First of all, once it was maintenance and it was physical withdrawals, and the money that it took to sustain it was the first thing, because I never had enough. Once I started stealing in order to do that, not only was it myself that was addicted, but my girlfriend was addicted along with me. And she was doing what she needed to do, you know, unbeknownst to me also, for her to uphold her drug use also. So it affected me in ways that were physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. It took everything from me, and it wasn't long after I was doing it. Basically everything: jealousy, anger, doubt, mad at God, never enough, so always craving more, upset with everybody because nobody could get me out of what I had going on. So it was a stream of emotions that kept my life on a roller coaster, with me trying to get out of the situation that I was in. So I remember at a point, whenever I was covering everything up that I tried to do, my dad was still alive, and he told me one day, he said, you would lie when the truth suits you better. And I remembered after he said that, realizing that every lie I told was another lie to cover up the lie before that. So everything I was saying was just literally, like they say, a tangled web that was weaved to be able to completely cover up the thing I'd said before. That was a lie, that was a lie, that was a lie. So basically my whole life, everything about what I was doing was to run from the last thing that I lied about, run from the last person that I robbed, run from the last incident that I was involved in, to keep that whole thing going. So with the cravings, I just know that with the Oxycontin, it was to a point to where once the withdrawal kicked in and the chills started and the cold sweat started and the goosebumps started, it wasn't long that I had to find something. So I remember one of the biggest things about it that affected me the worst was the anxiety that came from knowing that I was fixing to do something to somebody that I loved, and I was going to figure out a way to get anything I could from them in order to feed something inside of me that I couldn't control. So I think that on top of the physical withdrawal, the worst feeling about it was knowing what I was doing the whole time. God was asking me, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Having to fight that the whole time was the hardest thing. Well, I guess we kind of hit on it a little while ago, or in the past questions, is not only did I lose my moral compass as far as stealing and cheating and lying, but my inhibitions were out of the window. There was no regard for any kind of common sense, because I had no idea the amount of damage that I was doing. Things that would be obvious to most people were not. I was so blind to what I was doing that I didn't care. And if I tried to care, there was no point, because the drugs were controlling everything at that point in time. Oh, that's one of the big ones, right? Every time anything I got from anyone was always backed up by a false promise. If you give me, let me borrow, I promise. Every single thing was, no, 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 I promise, I promise. And I think back on it now, and it's the same thing with I'm sorry's. Everyone knows that words they bear no weight anymore. They don't want to hear it. It's literally somebody trying to give you whatever it is that they need to get you away from them, which breaks your heart after you realize that that's what it is. So a promise wasn't a promise anymore. It was just a way to be able to make myself feel better and try to lie to someone and feel like there was something inside of me that was trying to do the right thing as far as saying, no, 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 I promise you, I got you. So yeah, there was every time I did something, they were broken. I remember a few incidents whenever I had totaled some vehicles out, and I flipped one truck that I had off the road. I think after I got out of the truck and the ambulance came, I was walking to the road, and the guy was telling me that I flipped the truck like 7 times or something like that, and I didn't have a scratch on me, but he was like, you must have had your seatbelt on. And I was like, well, how do you know that? He said, well, you're talking to me right now, so that's how I know you're alive. And I realized after a while that God was there with me, and that there was some reason why he had his hand on me. And I watched that happen in a lot of cases with my family, where people made it through stuff that they shouldn't have. And I remember one night, whenever I was, sorry, excuse me. I remember one night I was laying in bed with my girlfriend, and I had run out of what I thought was everything that I had. And so I remember searching through the whole house, tearing everything apart, searching through the whole house, tearing everything apart. And I found what was a half of 80 milligram Oxycontin at the time. We split that, and I just remember crying out to God and asking God to please give me a sign that what He wanted me to do. Like, why is this happening, and what do you want me to do, and how do I get out of this? And I remember I maybe expected, like, God would show me a sign throughout the week or whenever. I'm not sure exactly when, but I remember going to bed that night, and I had a dream that I can't explain, but it had a lot of things that involved basically God showing me what it looked like for what's going to happen if I kept doing what I was doing, or generally what's going to happen for a lot of what's going on in the world. And basically after that, there was, you can go this way, or you can choose death, or you can choose life. Well, after that, things went on the same way for a long time, but I never forgot what He showed me in that dream. And it just kept eating away at me and kept eating away at me. And I remember many nights whenever I was doing things that God was basically telling me to throw everything down, stop what I was doing, and speaking to me very, very loudly. And I would bawl my eyes out, I would cry, because I knew that I couldn't stop what I was doing. So there was a lot of things that happened, but mostly God ended up speaking to me and showing me through people who random acts of kindness with Jesus involved. And finally, at a point, whenever I realized that I was at a point of brokenness after that, I was fortunate enough to have someone show me where Jesus was, and that was Calvary House. But yeah, it was incidences like that. Okay, so I'll just start with this. So I never knew anything about Jesus. I never knew anything about devotionals. Before I got to Calvary House, which was 2.5 years ago. But I had went through so much with my drug addiction that I knew what it was like to work hard for something. It might have been in the wrong ways. So when I got to Calvary House, I realized that this was a way that was going to save my life. So I wanted to work hard to try to find God. So being able to have time at Calvary House, which we're able to kind of get out of the world a little bit, I was able to read devotionals, pray as much as possible, which has led up to me being able to have some discipline in my life, to want to wake up, because I realized what the fruits are from that. so that I can wake up and want to go to a devotional. I can wake up and want to be still before God and know that my day won't be the same if I don't. And then on top of that, I'm able to look at things now from a different perspective and know that I need to say no to certain things because they'll compromise what God's got for me in my life or for the people around me, that I wouldn't substitute what He's got in the future for a compromise today. So being able to have a church that gives people who have already went in front of me, that are an example of how to live and how to live a godly life, has given me more ambition to ask myself, or tell myself, that's the kind of determination and the kind of godly life that I would like to have also. So there's motivation and inspiration there through people who have already been doing this. I think to me that just means what that scripture means. God gives us our testimony and puts us through that test and allows us to come to Him through things that we may not have seen as, good things, and they're not. I don't think God ever intended for anyone to go and hurt people and hurt themselves, but I do know that God uses things like that to be able to glorify Him. So, yeah, being able to look at that and know that what I've gone through in my life, just like the fact is, there's no possible way, there is no way that I could say that not only would I even be here today if it wasn't for Jesus or God's grace, but I would not have any kind of, first of all, hope for eternal salvation, but second of all, I wouldn't have a life with people who love me and care about me, to be able to go and share a testimony about the fact that there is hope. Because I understand now that God showed me that, there's like myself, I didn't realize there was hope. I didn't know. So now, I'm able to sometimes get a little bit too passionate about it, but wanting to share the same hope, wanting to share with people this is real. Don't fool yourself. Don't be deceived by what the world tells you, that God is that good. He is real, and our testimonies are able to relate to people in that way. Yeah, so God has mended so many relationships, and I've been blessed with reconciliation in areas that I know again, just like God's grace, there's nothing that I did. There is not one thing that I did and woke up and was able to say, oh, I'm going to work this out today. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll restore this relationship. No. It was just the fact that because God's grace allowed that situation to happen and the restoration came through Him, that I have a relationship with my mother. I have a relationship with my sisters. I have people who have reached out to me who I haven't talked to in forever. The fact that I've had people that have found hope in what it looks like to be a person that I was, but now be able to have hope like we do now. So, okay. All right, so I would say, Chuck, there is help, and you can get help. I would say that it's going to be hard, it's not going to be easy, but also that you can do this, and if you're really someone who's struggling and suffering, and if you're going through something like that, don't give up on yourself, is what I would say. Don't give up. I would say fight. I would say get up and let God change your life and change your heart and be able to receive what He's got for you. What you're saying, you're worth it and you can do it, and God does love you, and don't give up on yourself. My name is Nick. This is my story. Thanks for watching Overcomers TV.